Hello, Sad Nation. This week is National Teen Driver Safety Week, a time dedicated to spreading the word and seeking solutions to prevent teen injuries and fatalities on our roadways. Did you know that vehicle crashes continue to be a leading cause of death for teens? For this reason, we're thrilled to have you join us for our Agents of Change series, presented by State Farm and SAD. As young people learn to drive, we want to make sure that both teens and their parents are equipped with the tips and knowledge they need to make it from point A to point B safely. We're thrilled to have an all-star panel with us today. Please join me in welcoming our Agents of Change. Joining us from Florida, we have Twee. From Pennsylvania, we have Megan. And we have Ray from Maryland. Welcome, everyone. In this episode, we're discussing the basics of driving. As a parent of a teen driver, the process of your teen learning to drive may be just as overwhelming for you as it is for them. Where do you start? What do you need to do? Luckily, these agents are here to help you begin this new journey. Let's kick the conversation off with our first agent of change.
Awesome. Well, learning to drive is a rite of passage for most teens, but one that comes with increased responsibility. So as Bailey mentioned a little bit ago, motor vehicle crashes continue to be a leading cause of teen fatalities in the United States, often due to inexperience and immaturity. With a set of keys in hand, teens often feel invincible. I can remember as a teen thinking nothing was ever going to happen to me. But we have to remain focused on the task of driving at hand while successfully implementing basic driving skills. To start, parents and teens should take time to make sure that the teen is knowledgeable about it and comfortable with the vehicle and having control.
You're absolutely right, Megan. I'm a parent of a 15-year-old son right now, and I'm learning to teach my son how to be comfortable with the car. So there are countless skills and scenarios that a new driver will need to learn and experience. And it's very important to remember that time and practice will bring familiarity with a level of comfort with driving. So before the teen sets out on the road for the first time, have them start in the vehicle, sitting there, figuring out where the controls are, how to use their signals left and right, and then practice applying the gas and the brakes, driving straight, making little turns left and right, and backing up. Getting in the driver's seat for the first time can be very intimidating. So taking time to start with these basic skills will help them gain a sense of comfort with the task of driving before actually hitting the roadways.
Yeah, I think after you get familiar with your vehicle, one of the things that you always have to do is make sure that you are buckled up. You know, one thing my family, we do every time we get in the car is we always ask the question, are the seat belts buckled? And we do that before we leave. You know, it's interesting, though, that we always do that as a matter of habit. And I think that's one of the biggest things you have to do as a young driver is to develop habits that are great for safe driving. You know, that was never more important than about a couple of years ago when my family was in an accident. I was not in the car, but it was a pretty significant accident. Vehicle was totaled, ambulance was called, but luckily there were no serious injuries because those seat belts were buckled. And it happened so quickly, they had no idea. The airbags, there was just dust in the entire car. So the impact of an accident is significant. But if you do have your seat belts buckled and you make that a habit, you can absolutely save your life. And I realized that personally.
This is great information for parents and teens both. So what are some specific driving skills that young people need to work on as they get hours in behind the wheel?
Well, as a teen, it can be tempting to push the speed limit. According to a new report from the Governor's Highway Safety Association and Ford Motor Company Fund, 15,000 510 teen drivers ages 16 to 19 were involved in fatal motor vehicle crashes, and that was from the years 2015 to 2019. More than a third of those crashes, about 5,200, was involving speeding. So teens, I beg you, practice patience while driving. Actually, we all should practice patience by driving, but based on these statistics, teens especially, there's really no need for speed. Leave early so you're not in a rush. Pay attention to your speedometer. Also, avoid tailgating. I know it can be tempting to get a little bit closer than a car to distance, but really avoid that tailgating. Nobody wants somebody on their rear end. Know your speed limit and maintain it. So keep a safe following distance from other vehicles around you, especially during adverse weather conditions. And working on these skills will help you become a safer and more mindful driver.
So driving at night, that has always been an issue of mine because I wear contacts. So it's a totally different ball game when you're driving at night versus during the day. With the lack of light, there are a lot of other complications and that you don't anticipate because you can't see it. So gaining that experience and driving with your parents or an instructor at night will help you be more confident. When the sun goes down, make sure you drive slowly. For those of you that live in, the states where there's a lot of animals that cross the road, it also is a time of year too to be mindful of them because when the sun comes down, they come out to play. So make sure that you pay attention to not only the road, but the sides of the road as well. Keeping your windshield clean will help keep that glare from other headlights from distracting you or not being able to see things. Making sure your headlights work is a huge, because if your headlights aren't working, if one of them's out, then you can only see half of what you normally would be able to see during the daylight with, and also with both lights working. So other road users and other drivers can threaten your safety too. So during that time, people tend to be more distracted or drowsy. You also have a lot of drunk drivers out or those using drugs. So be very careful and aware of other drivers during that time.
And one of the things we have to discuss as well is adverse weather conditions. One of the things that we do see a lot of wherever you live is the weather does change. And sometimes people don't even think that driving on a wet road is just as bad at times as driving on ice. So one of the things we need to make sure is practice as much as you can driving adverse weather conditions, but also making sure you know your vehicle is in the right condition to be driving in those conditions. And sometimes you got to get things that just happen that you didn't plan on, a snowstorm, or you didn't plan on a thunderstorm, but you're caught in it. So make sure your vehicle is prepared, make sure the tires are in good shape, making sure your windshield wipers are changed. If your windshield wipers are going and you can't see, that will be a problem. So make sure that you're completely prepared. And the biggest thing is make sure you slow down. When it comes to adverse weather conditions, speed can be a big factor in accidents. But if you slow it down, you're less likely to have an accident or slide off the side of the road. So make sure we pay attention to that as well.
As always, panelists, your expertise is so appreciated. As we wrap up, I'd love to know, what was a driving skill that was a challenge for you as you learned how to drive back in the day?
So my biggest, well, it still is. So it's not something that you get over with, many years of experience unless you practice all the time, is actually going backwards. Most people can go forward. It's really easy to go forward, but when you're going backwards, maneuvering that car is a little different. So I have been actually practicing just in the past 2 years, backing up into parking spaces, and that has really helped me.
I think the hardest for me has been parallel parking. And I would think that I'd be really good at it since I had to learn on a Suburban. My mom made me learn how to parallel park and pass my test on a Chevy Suburban, which is a tank. But you know, I've been spoiled by with the backup video cameras. So if I had to parallel park without that backup camera, I would be in big trouble.
Thanks for sharing, Megan. I think one of the things for me is just when I first started driving, just figuring out how to see how far the distance, the judgment of how far things were in regards to in proximity to where the car was. So my first accident was I hit a rock, you know, and it parking the car. So I didn't even see it. So I think, you know, just paying attention and knowing what's in front of you and being able to judge the distances is one of the biggest things that I think I had to deal with learning how to drive.
Agents, these were great tips all around. I again want to thank our esteemed panel from State Farm and, of course, you, SAD Nation, our followers, for helping us share the rules of the road as we observe National Teen Driver Safety Week. That's all the time we have for now. Be safe, every trip, every time.